Hi, everyone. Welcome to the stream today. It's Miriam back with a live conversation. Today, we're with Burak Kanber from Writephobia, and we're going to learn a little bit about what he's up to. And please chime in with your questions if you happen to join us while we're streaming. Hey, Burak, how are you?
Hi, I'm pretty well, thank you.
Good. And we were chatting before the stream about how it's a hot summer for you up in Jersey. What's the founder community up there like? What's the entrepreneur scene in Jersey?
Oh, it's empty and devoid of humanity. I'm actually from New York originally, my wife and I, and I'd been in the New York City startup scene for a long time. And then my real company, my day job, which is not Writephobia, we started up in Philadelphia, which has a smaller but also vibrant startup scene. So New York and Philly, but at a certain point, if you're a New Yorker and you want to buy a house, you start looking at New Jersey.
Right. Okay, very cool. So Writephobia is a side hustle.
That's right.
Okay, and are you hoping to turn it into like a full-time situation?
No, probably not, especially since it's sort of nonprofit with the charity angle. And it is pretty niche, if we're honest. So I'm not trying to make it a full-time gig. I just want it to sort of thrive and build a community and, have it help writers as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, it really caught my interest. We'll definitely bring it up so that people can check it out as we're doing this stream as well. But I'd love to kind of hear more about your journey. We met in the Indie Worldwide group, and I don't know, I'm not sure if you're in that challenge that's going on, but or what your full-time gig is, but why don't you just bring me / anyone who watches this up to speed with kind of who you are and what's been like for you?
Sure. I've been a software developer for 20 some odd years now. I started when I was a little kid. And I've just always loved building software and, sort of my whole life just constantly working on different creative projects. About 12 years ago, I started my day job, which is another tech startup in marketing technology. So I've been doing that and, running technology and product over there for a long time, growing this small business. But the whole time in the background, I've always been a side project kind of person. I just love building software so much that I do it for my day job and then I go home and do it for fun. So over the years, I've done many different side projects, some of which fall flat on their face. Others have been moderately successful. And throughout this whole thing, I've also been writing. I published this is about 10 years ago now, but a really popular blog series about machine learning in JavaScript, because that's another one of my weird skills. And that sort of got me into writing regularly. And from that, I got 2 different book deals to publish books on machine learning and technology. And so I did all that, writing, building software, got familiar with the publishing industry. And, at a certain point, I got really into creative writing. And I'm really bad at it. And I've done Nanowrimo, which if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's National Novel Writing Month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the November challenge where in November you're supposed to write 50,000 words of a novel. So I've done that a couple of times. But I find that I don't have the stick-it-to-itness with my creative writing. And so eventually this project, Writephobia, came together, which is essentially an accountability app that keeps you accountable to your own word goals. And, punishes you if you miss a goal, right? I got the idea also a long time ago. This one's sort of been stewing in my head for a while, but listening to the podcast Radio Lab, there was an episode called You versus You. And in one of the segments, there was a woman who wanted to quit smoking. And she tried everything and, nothing stuck. Eventually, she went to her friend and told her, hey, friend, listen, the next time I smoke a cigarette, here's my bank account info. I want you to take $5,000 of mine and donate it to a hate group. And, that worked for her. She never smoked again. And that sort of planted the seed, bless you. That sort of planted the seed and the idea for Writephobia, because a lot of times we talk about positive reinforcement, positive encouragement to get things done. But the truth is, negative reinforcement also works. And the way I relate writing and smoking is the problem with quitting smoking is that there are no immediate negative consequences to having a cigarette, right? There's only this vague negative, maybe in the future I'll have health problems consequences, but nothing immediate. In the moment, the cigarette, feels good or whatever it is. And there's nothing to stop you from doing it, except for 30 years from now, you may have problems. And I sort of see not writing the same way. There are no immediate negative consequences to not writing. So the protagonist in our Radio Lab episode, she did something really genius by taking those vague, abstract, far future negative consequences, and she made them tangible and immediate, right? Smoke a cigarette, you lose a bunch of money that is donated to a hate group. And so I figured you could do the same thing for any other habit. And any other sort of habit forming mechanism is if you can make the negative consequence more immediate and more tangible, it'll, it provides an immediate feedback loop. And so Writephobia is not going to donate 5,000 of your dollars to a hate group, but instead it will donate $1 to a writing charity if you miss a goal. So to me, that still closes the feedback loop a little bit, right? Because if I don't write today, whatever the negative consequence is, in 30 years, I'm not that good a writer and I've never published another book. But with a tool like Writephobia, if you don't write today, you lose $1. And so that makes the consequence immediate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I'm really glad you told that story. I was concerned for a second that, because I didn't look into, I recognized this and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then when you started telling the story, I was like, oh my God, is he donating to hate groups?
No, definitely not donating to hate groups.
Very good, very good. Now we got that out of the way. So this is the site here that you've built here, and like you said, so writers register for this, then upload their bank info.
Yep, you just enter your credit card
right into the platform.
That's right.
And then if for the day you don't post, ding.
Right, exactly at midnight, you get charged $1 if you didn't hit your word count goal for that day. And you get to set up your own goals. For me, I have 1,000 words on Saturday that I want to write. And other users will pick, 500 words Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever it is. You pick your own schedule, you set your own schedule, and then the app holds you accountable to that schedule.
Mm-hmm. It's really an interesting concept. So, okay, publish content to the public web. So if I write in Writephobia, then can I just push a button and pushes it to my Medium profile, for example?
We don't do sort of cross-account sharing like that, but it will give you a public URL for a post that you can share.
Excellent. Very good. I like it. The website is also very pretty and easy to understand.
Thanks. I'm not a designer, so this is the third iteration of this landing page.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And did you just go ahead and choose, is this the first charity that you've chosen, or have you done others?
Nanowrimo is the first one. And we are actually, or I am actually just about to do the monthly donation to them. And so all those donations are just coming from penalties from the users. And in June, we made $50. That's going to go to NaNoWriMo.
Okay, cool. And are they appreciative, or how are they feeling?
I haven't spoken to them yet.
Right.
So, but, you know, fortunately, they have a just sort of public donation link that I'll use for this one.
Yeah.
And actually, I would like to develop a relationship with NaNoWriMo just because I want people using this app in November to actually help them with their NaNoWriMo goals. And I have a bunch of other features that are going to, you know, move towards that purpose, make it a little bit more compatible with NaNoWriMo. And right now I'm experimenting with community features. Another thing that the sort of writing world doesn't have a lot of is online writing groups for peer critique and feedback. So I'm talking to a few different writing group moderators to try and figure out what the digital approach there is going to be for Writephobia. So ideally, by November, you'll have both the accountability and also the ability to join a writing group with other NaNoWriMo writers and actually share your work privately to your small group and get feedback on your new chapters or whatever it is.
Yeah. By the way, we have a viewer. Say hello in the comments, whoever's there.
Hi.
Thanks for tuning in. You can join this conversation with us live as well. Just let us know if you want to come up here. Okay, so this community aspect you're building, November, I could see this working very well with them. What made you decide to build an app versus just doing this web-based?
Well, this is web-based.
Oh, it is web-based.
Yeah. So you just log into the website. And honestly, that decision is because I'm not very good at apps. I've always been more of a web developer.
Cool. No, I'm super down. I'm really glad. I don't know where I thought that it was an app or why I thought that it was an app. Thank goodness it's just a web-based platform. That's perfect. And are you doing this for the Indie Worldwide 100 Byte Challenge? Oh, go to app. What does that mean?
That just means go to the, get out of the marketing pages and log in to the actual web app of it.
Okay, cool. And are you doing this for the Indie Worldwide Challenge, the 100 Byte Challenge?
I am actually, though I haven't filled out that update spreadsheet in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I need to sign up for this. But okay, so I sign up. Do I have to give my credit card information right away?
So when you sign up, you are sort of entered into the trial mode. So it'll let you, you know, set up your goals and write a couple of posts or chapters or whatever it is you're writing. And then at a certain point, it'll lock you out from writing new posts until you put your payment information in. But yeah, I think you get
this is crazy. I don't know about this. It's $1, I guess. It's no big deal.
Right, it's just $1. And if you only have one day a week where you have writing goals, the worst that happens is you lose $1 a week.
Perfect.
Right.
So I set my own goals to that level.
Right, exactly. You know, there's also an extreme mode, which will charge you $5 per missed goal instead of one. Still not 5,000 like Zelda in the Radio Lab episode, but you know, if you want to up the ante a little bit, you can turn on that feature.
That's for the baller. That's baller mode right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's say I set my goal for 1 day a week,
Mm-hmm.
but then I feel like I want to write 2. Can I do it?
Yes, you can write anytime in the app and it will keep tracking your word count. But if you write on a day that you don't have goals, nothing really happens. If you've written, you should feel good about that, of course.
Yeah.
But
You know what
there's,
I'm just going to throw this out there if you're taking feature requests.
sure.
What if people don't write, the money goes to the people that do? I don't want to cut out the charities. I love charity and all that good stuff, but I'm
Right.
saying, like, if I'm writing and other people are not, we're all in this, it could be a motivating factor.
You know, I could maybe see that working in the context of writing groups, right? So a lot of people do their like, for example, exercise accountability groups, where like if you and your 3 friends, if somebody doesn't exercise, 3 times a week, the person who missed has to buy dinner for the others or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I could see that working in the sort of writing group setting where it's 3 or 4 people, and instead of your dollar going to charity, it gets paid out to your writing group members who did write.
Or maybe 25 cents or 50 cents, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that would be cool. And I have heard of that, or like with the exercising, and then also at dinner, if whoever pulls out their cell phone first has to pay.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Very cool. Can you talk a little bit, because right now I'm going through launching, my product. We were discussing briefly before the stream how challenging it is. You're a product manager, and right? You're correct.
Yeah, you could say that.
You built your own product. You launched
Mhm.
it. What have been some of the challenges that you've learned along the way? Some tips for me?
So, I mentioned earlier that I've been in the startup scene and a startup founder for a dozen years now. If there's one lesson I've learned over and over and over again, it's that marketing is far more important than the actual product or technology. And I hate saying that because I'm a tech guy, the software engineer for 20 some odd years, and I love making products. But frankly, if you build it, they won't come. You need to market it. And I think one of the mistakes I made with this project is I started with the product and the technology completely instead of starting from the marketing and demand generation side of things. I'm also very lazy when it comes to marketing. So what I really wanted to do with this project is have, sort of a passive pay-per-click advertising campaign running that would bring new users in consistently. But I didn't research or test that before I actually built the product. And so once I built it, I discovered that it's too niche for a pay-per-click channel to actually work to bring relevant users to the site. Now, there are forms of marketing that do work for Writephobia, but they're very manual. It's like actually talking to people and going into forums and not spammily promoting the app, but actually bringing something unique to the discussion and then mentioning, oh, by the way, I built an app that helps people with this. So that marketing does work really well. But because it's a side project of mine, I didn't really consider the fact that I would need to do so much marketing by hand just to onboard users. So for anybody listening who is trying to start a product or even a side gig, you should consider the marketing aspects upfront. Where are you going to find users? How are you going to acquire them? How are you going to reach them? Is there demand for this thing? And I didn't do that in the beginning. So I'm just sort of brute forcing the user onboarding.
Well, I'm into it, but that's a very good lesson. What kind of marketing do you suggest? Is it just whatever, just do marketing, or is it niche for your product? Do you need to hire a marketing guru? What are we doing? Are we placing Facebook ads? What is marketing to you?
Right. So like I said, I tried pay per click for Writephobia. So that's Twitter ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, and none of them really work because the thing is just too niche. You can't really target people. There's nobody searching on Google for, writing app that charges you $1 when you miss a goal, right? There are some tangential things that people search for, but you end up spending a lot of money to get eyeballs for users that aren't going to convert onto your product. So for Writephobia, pay-per-click doesn't work, but for a lot of other products, pay-per-click certainly does. And so one thing to look at when you're considering pay-per-click is, who are the competitors? Writephobia has no competitors, right? So pay-per-click is very difficult. But if you're a product that has competitors, then you may be able to get pay-per-click working for you, depending on your price point and the average cost per click and cost per conversion. The higher your price point is, typically the better pay-per-click will work for you. The other type of marketing that works really well, pretty much for everything, I haven't seen it not work, is good long tail evergreen content marketing. So maintaining a blog where you're discussing tips and tricks for whatever your field is, and just, knowledge sharing, right? Because you have all those people who are going to be on Google saying, how do I stick to my writing goals? And eventually, after about a year of grinding away at developing your content backlog, then content marketing starts working. And that works pretty much everywhere. Then there is more manual marketing, which is really just sales, right? Because when you're going into forums or on reddit.com/r/writing or something like that, and telling people about your app, you're really doing, person-to-person sales. And so that's not really marketing, but it works, right? If you become a good salesperson, and you have the opportunity to get in front of somebody, odds are you can come up with a good pitch and convert them. But, that depends on if you're a good salesperson, what your personality type is like, and if you have the time and energy to actually be doing that. And then there's, similar to content marketing, there's newsletter marketing, which I actually just started up for Writephobia, and I've just started up the content marketing for Writephobia as well. Cool. And then there's partnerships, right? So for example, if I can get in touch with Nanowrimo and get them to put a little call out on their website for Writephobia, then, that's pretty huge. Yeah. So partner marketing works as well.
When did you launch Writephobia?
I'm going to say 2 months ago.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. It's significant. You've come a long way for 2 months. And then, but where do and how do I read the stuff that the writers are writing on Writephobia? Can I do that right now without being a person that's logged in?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now I have it so that if somebody publishes something publicly, they can send you a link. But otherwise, to see people's writings, you have to be a logged in member. And that also allows you to, make comments and things like that on their posts. Frankly, right now, like I said, I'm talking to, for example, writing group moderators and a couple of professional writers. I'm trying to decide if the sort of publication aspect of Writephobia is important at all. I think it's secondary, and I think more primary is going to be community and the small writing groups. So I'm not going to put so much emphasis on making your post public, because there are like writing platforms that do that. You have Medium, you have Ghost, and etc. Writephobia is not really intended to be like a blogging platform, but it's so easy to add those features that I just did it.
Totally. Yeah, and I could see things happening there. I mean, content,
Hopefully.
we should do another follow-up session chat about the future of content and content creators and all of that stuff, writers.
Sure.
As an artist, my primary medium is writing, and so I'm really into this writephobia thing. What would you consider some of your successes now that you kind of went through some of the challenges that you had?
Well, the biggest success is that it works. If somebody's on the platform and they have writing goals set up and they have their payment information set up, it turns out they actually do write. And I would say the average is, for our users, people make about 50% of their goals. And in talking to them, that's a huge improvement from making 0% of their goals, which is what the case was beforehand. So people are still missing goals, but with Writephobia, they are writing a lot more than they used to be. And frankly, that's why I got into this. That is really the only goal. I would love to see things like, writing groups and peer critique. I would love those things to happen. But really the primary concern is getting people to write more than they used to. And that is working. And so I count that a huge success.
That's fantastic. And I love that on your site you've got, the benefits of writing, because I love that. And people should be writing, And I think it's good too that it's only public if you share it. That way people, if you just want to write as, journaling your own private situation, it does decrease your stress and increase your happiness and helps you process life and reflect and bring out your learnings. Especially, I think for founders, it is important that we write. And I think that a lot of founders think about building in public. They find, sharing it's kind of therapeutic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And there's actually been, science done on this. Daily journaling, mindfulness journaling has been shown to help people process traumas. And similarly, fiction and creative writing has also been shown to help people process traumas and also discover personality aspects of themselves that they haven't beforehand. For me, though, writing is important because this is a bit of a hot take, but it makes you smarter, right? Period, full stop. Writing makes you smarter. And the reason is that if you look way back in history before humans developed language, you find that humans didn't have a capacity for abstract thought before we had language. We had concrete thought, right? You could see a tool, you could use a tool, but you could not think in an abstract manner about what that tool means or what its place in the universe is, right? And this concept is a bit foreign to us because we love abstract thought. We do that kind of thing all the time. But we weren't able to do it before we had language. And so I'm sure you've heard or possibly even experienced a thing where the best way to learn a subject is to start teaching it. And that's actually an old Latin phrase, 2,000-year-old bit of knowledge. But the reason that is because when you teach somebody something, you necessarily have to try explaining it to them a few different ways, right? So if I'm teaching somebody math or physics or whatever, I'll describe it to them one way and it doesn't click for them. So then I'll try describing it another way and that doesn't click. And then the third way, that clicks, sure. But in that process of me putting that abstract concept into words in 3 different ways, I've illuminated 3 different sides of that abstract concept. And now I understand it better. And that's because language is our sort of modeling tool for abstract concepts. So the better you get at language, the more quickly you can grasp and understand abstract concepts. And writing is just practicing language.
Do you think that people will get less smart and when Elon gets Neuralink up and running and we can just port each other's knowledge directly brain to brain?
Probably. I mean, listen, people are already getting less smart in the last 10 years since Instagram has existed, right?
Blame it on the gram.
Blame it on the gram. I mean, it's true though, right? So, you wanted to talk about the future of writing, journalism, blogging. Honestly, I have a very grim outlook on it, right? Because long form content is not nearly as popular as it was even just a decade ago. And that's because we've invented technology to give us new bite-sized visual media. So we have Instagram, TikTok is the big one today, right? Well, people don't read things anymore. And, you can't say that for everybody. Because there are still platforms like Wattpad, for example, that are hugely popular. So there's like 30 million people reading stuff on Wattpad or whatever the number is, but there's still 300 million Americans. So I think the sort of share of people who read regularly has gone down drastically in the last 10 or 20 years. Which is pretty grim to me. And, it means we're not practicing our language faculties, which means we're not practicing our critical thought, which means we're not practicing our ability to understand abstract concepts. And so I think we're getting dumber. But
Totes, I hear you, I feel you. And yeah, we've got to, figure this out. And thankfully, creators like yourself are making it easier for people to write, and that will make us smarter.
I sincerely hope so.
I know, Sam.
Good.
So, okay, what about writer's block? I want to write, maybe, I get on the platform, write phobia about it, and then all of a sudden I just don't know what to write about.
Sure.
Can I just input crazy words, or maybe I use GPT-3 or whatever, generate some stuff. What if I just copy paste from the website? I mean, these are stupid, actually, not stupid, but like people shouldn't be doing that. People wouldn't be doing that if they're joining this. But honestly, what about writer's block if I just don't know what to write? What do I do?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, you're right. You could just copy and paste garbage into Writephobia and hit your goal. I'm not trying to steal money from people, right?
Right.
So if you want to skip a goal, you can literally just move the goal to tomorrow, right? And you won't get charged as long as you do that before midnight.
Okay.
Right. So there's workarounds, but
people, you don't make it so people have to cheat.
Right. Right.
Adjust.
Right.
You're being kind.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with something that just sort of automatically takes money from you. It needs to be really easy to opt out and sort of control when and how that happens. Like if you want to go on vacation and not write for 2 weeks, like that's fine. But, when you're having a normal week, I want you writing. But anyway, writer's block. There's not just one form of writer's block. So the first form of writer's block is related to mental health. A lot of the time people with writer's block are depressed clinically. And so if you discover that that's the issue you're having with writing, that's a conversation between you and your doctor or your mental health provider, right? And so that's the first thing that you should take care of. If you're having writer's block, you should, explore that. How is my own mental health? Am I healthy enough to even have the bandwidth and the energy to do writing? And if the answer to that is no, then you put everything else aside and fix that problem first.
Love that.
So maybe that's like 25% of the cases of writer's block. I mean, I'm just making up that number. It could be smaller, it could be bigger. Other forms of writer's block, though. So you mentioned you go on and you just don't know what to write. And that's pretty common, right? If you're staring at a blank piece of paper, if you're not working on a novel or a blog series actively, it can be hard to generate new ideas. So for that, Writephobia actually has a little get a writing prompt button. You click that, it'll give you a random writing prompt. I have like 2,000 of them that I collected from the internet. And so if you're just going in cold and you want to write something creative, write some fiction, but you have no ideas, you could just do that. Another good thing to do, right, is if you're working on a novel or you're working on a blog series, find a way to just sort of automatically generate ideas, right? So for a blog series, you figure out what your thing is, and then you'll have infinite number of topics to write about, right? I'm a CTO of a startup for a long time, and if I wanted to write a blog series about being a CTO, I easily could write down 100 different blog post ideas. And so that's basically tapping the well. Now, I guess the remaining part of writer's block is, let's say you're a creative fiction writer and you are working on a novel, and your novel has a plot, and you know what you're supposed to be writing. A lot of times writer's block creeps in either because there is a problem with your story that is causing mental overhead, that it's forcing you to try to figure out the structural problem with your story, and you're not really excited about anything, and you're unable to put words on the paper. So in that case, you can actually go back and look at the structure of your story and figure out what the root cause of that problem is. Otherwise, it's typically an issue of not being interested in the next segment you're supposed to write. So a lot of times people, as they're writing out a novel, they'll have these big plot beats, these big plot points that they want to hit, and those are exciting to them, and they have no trouble writing those. But then you realize that writing is a craft, and like any craft, there is a bit of grunt work you have to do. The establishing shots, if you're talking about scene sequel format for, fiction writing, you have to write the sequels, right? The sequels of the scenes, that is. And sometimes those are less dynamic and less exciting. And so a lot of times people struggle at that point, right? Writing the uninteresting parts of the novel. And so the way to fix that is to make every part of your novel interesting, right?
Right.
You don't always need to be talking about the hobbits walking through the hinterland if there's nothing developing the plot through that. And so lots of different forms of writer's block, ranging from mental health issues on one end to just having boring parts of your novel. And so because there's so many different causes, there are a lot of different solutions you can pursue.
Thanks for sharing some of this with us, and good to know you've built it into the platform, a little prompt situation there. And I appreciate you bringing up mental health, as it is important, and we should all be aware that it's something we should have. Good mental health.
Absolutely. It's priority number one.
Exactly.
And then, once you're able to carve out some mental health bandwidth for yourself, right, if that is your problem, you'll find that through the more traditional mental health approaches, you get a little bit more energy and bandwidth. And once you have that energy, you can start writing, maybe mindfulness journaling, or maybe even just creative fiction writing. And that gives you this sort of virtuous cascade effect, right? You need a little bit of energy to be able to do the things that improve your mental health even more. But if that's where you're starting from, you need to solve that core problem first, and speak to a mental health provider. But then you carve out a little bit of room for yourself there, and you're able to keep it going and then start writing, and that improves your mental health even more. And then you start exercising and things like that, and you can find yourself in a good place again.
And everything I write in the platform is confidential and mine unless I make it public.
That's right. That's right. You can write in the platform completely privately, completely publicly, or you can mark things as community only. And with that mode, only other Writephobia members with like valid email addresses and things like that can see and comment on your content. And that's a way of just sort of keeping the audience tight and controlled. That way, you're only sharing content with people who are in a similar situation as you, right? People who want to write, who understand the struggles of writing consistently and are there for the same reasons as you. You can share your writing to other members like that. And I think that's also a very important mechanism, right? If we're talking about, for example, startup founder mental health, right? I found, say again?
I said, let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, but I found, right? So I used to be part of this peer group called Venwise, which is located in New York. Every month I would get together with my pod of fellow CTOs, so 5 or 6 people in a room for 3 hours with a moderator or a facilitator. And in that situation, it's a lot easier to be open and vulnerable because you know that everybody sitting next to you is there for the same reasons as you. They also want to be open and vulnerable. You're all there with the understanding that you're there to help each other. And that's a lot easier to do than to just sort of broadcast your stuff out there, right? It's a lot easier to do, to talk about your problems than it is to make a public blog post about, whatever it is, something vulnerable that you're experiencing. And so just controlling for the audience and knowing that your content is only going to reach people who are in the same place as you, I think is really important, and allows you to be a bit more open and vulnerable than you can be if you're just broadcasting publicly.
Mm-hmm. So true. Yeah, and I'm glad that those types of communities exist. And yeah, I think talking about mental health is important. I have a whole nother YouTube series where I talk to founders just about their mental health.
Oh, that's great.
In that. And I would love to talk to you about your books another time. Maybe we can chat again.
Sure. I mean, my books are stuffy, technical, machine learning books. But the process of publishing them was very interesting.
Exactly. And some learnings there of like getting the publishing deal and walking through that, negotiating, etc. Lots of things that people could benefit from knowing and learning. And we had one person watching basically this entire time, which is very exciting. Even though they didn't chime in, say hello in the comments. We don't know who they are, but we're glad that they came. How can people, anything else people should know? How can people get in touch with you?
To get in touch, probably the best way is Twitter @Writephobia. Or you could send an email, writephobia@burakkanber.com. It's just my full name.com. But I think that's posted somewhere on the website. So please, anyone watching, feel free to tweet at me. Anything else people should know? That's a good question. I think the important thing is it's okay to make commitments to yourself, right? I think a lot of people are sort of afraid of commitment, even though there are things that they want to do that require commitment. So, for example, I want to write a novel, right? There's nothing wrong with committing yourself to writing 4 days a week for a full year to get that done. A lot of people are scared about that commitment because, oh, what if something comes up or whatever? But honestly, I think that's just a way of holding yourself back. So my advice is, whether it's writing or some other pursuit, like a creative pursuit, or even just exercise and eating healthy, or if it's a relationship goal, just go ahead and make the commitment, right? And hold yourself to it, because that's one way that you can prove to yourself that you can follow through and get things done. Make the commitment and then do it. And consistency is key, just like with everything else. If you want to write or become a better writer, do it every day or 5 days a week or whatever it is, but do it consistently. Because it's it's muscle memory, just like anything else, and that consistency will help build up your skills, and your refinement of the craft improves over time, and you find that after a little while you're not obsessing so much over the nitty gritty. Right, you're not obsessing so much over what is this character arc, or how does this plot line develop, because you've internalized some of those skills. So like I said, muscle memory. But yeah, it's okay to make a commitment and try your best to be consistent, no matter what it is you're trying to do in life. And I think more people just need to be okay with that, right? Making commitments, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I think people get commitment overload, like, oh, I have to do the dishes every single night of my life, and be in a relationship, and have a job, and try to write a book. Like, why not, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And in a world of sharing and Instagram and stuff, then you're constantly overwhelmed with what everyone else is doing. So you constantly feel inferior. So it's like, well, why commit to anything? Then I'll never fail. There's no fear. There's no,
Right.
but I agree with you. That's not the way to live life.
Yeah.
Get there, fail your heart out.
Yeah, no, exactly. Honestly, when I was younger, just starting in the startup world, in my early 20s, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is only a few years older than me. And at the beginning, I compared myself to like Mark Zuckerberg. And I would constantly get down on myself, like, oh, at my age, Mark Zuckerberg was worth $40 million. Like, why am I comparing myself to the extreme outlier of all extreme outliers, right? That's just a recipe for disaster and low self-worth. And what you really should be doing is comparing yourself against yourself yesterday, right? Are you better today than you were yesterday?
Yep.
Have you done just a little bit more? Or have you improved in some way? And that's really the only metric that matters, is just self-improvement constantly.
I love that. So many wise words that you've shared today. I really appreciate you taking the time and just for being open to talking with me, a complete stranger, live on the internet that you've never talked to before. And I hope we can do it again. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, for sure. Reach out anytime. We can talk about books or content or technology, whatever it is.
That's good. Have a good rest of your day.
Great. Thank you so much. You